Hello, everybody. Cal Griffin here. Uh, in light of changes and my affiliation with a specific order, that will no longer be the case of what this is affiliated with. I'm now in a solo endeavor of my own order that I am no longer affiliated with the COJK. I will be leaning more towards the Jedi teachings and trainings and my outlooks and philosophies and food for thought in this process. But however, in light of a recent event that has happened within the last 72 hours, I there are a couple of things to talk about here. A is our principles, our ideals, hidden agendas, and misleading with those agendas to turn away people from the Jedi community and from one's own selfish desires and passions. Now, as we know in the Jedi community, there's a lot spoken about passion. And that in itself is not a bad thing, but however, it can also corrupt us. And there was a set order which I will leave out of respect for its recent events and what further actions might be taken for it and with it. So in this is to hopefully help cause people who are seeking this path to have something to think about. Now, people who have their principles in order and principles in place and their ideals and idealisms, their character, their morals and their ethics in place, and seek to have a honest, truthful, and enlightening journey. And their intentions are good. But however, there can be times and individuals that can become corrupted and take advantage of said individuals that are highly trusting. And this puts things in a bad light and causes people to seek other paths that are not productive, which that in itself is harmful to the Jedi community from those few individuals. And they end up going to the dark side, or at least are sympathizers to it, and maintain the guise of a beneficial teaching, which that in itself is detriment to a young person who is starting their journey on this, because mistrust happens, distrust happens, and so one becomes resentful and gets misled into a order or training that can completely disillusion and distort an actual good, healthy individual. That person themselves becomes corrupted by the illusion and delusional thinking. And then thus the order itself becomes that whole cesspool. And this is really a sad thing because the Jedi community in itself is striving to become more organized and define what Jediism really is. And there would be people that will take advantage of that and then take advantage of that lack of organization with that definition. And so the would-be practitioners of this misleading delusion of corruption will thus start one down a way that can be recovered from. It's not the end of the world. Or they go and sink in further because when someone is at a very fragile state, ends up falling into a way that completely feeds that resentment and that distrust and that frustration out of, and it simply comes from maybe a state of desperation of trying to change your own life and trying to gain something, to gain meaning. And many of us have been there. Many of us have fallen into areas that were less than ideal or less than healthy for us. But this is where in the code, or in one of the codes, that I like to keep in mind is ignorance yet knowledge. And that, to me, and I think should to be to many, the mainstay. Because without gaining that knowledge to reduce one's ignorance can either keep you on the right path and direction, or if ignored, you can become a stray in a drifting boat without oars or a rudder. And you just get carried along by the currents and wind. So mainly where I'm going to go with this today is a warning by accounts that I will leave their names unmentioned just for their own anonymity, that, and there are individuals that I thought differently of, but have in turn seen the true endeavors and nature of their efforts, and that I apologize for. But however, back to what an order I am starting, the Iowan Jedi, are seeking to do. And this will also be in a relationship with where I'm going here, is that, and there's many facets to uncover here, and there's many facets to cover, so I'm going to try to stick with as many as I can. There are orders that can become corrupted, that can ruin the good name of what Jediism really stands for, which in itself is to improve. which in itself is to help one grow and learn the ways of the Force, or at least have a better understanding of it and our relationship with it. But there are those that would be to stand in the way of that growth and stonewall. And those are the people that can, in just their doings, due to being trusted by hiding their true agenda, corrupt, and have innocent people be harmed. And this itself is not good. This causes a rift. It causes that division. And then nobody wants to listen because everybody's right. Well, when one is corrupted and one is fallen into the more sympathetic ways and sympathizing ways of the dark side, then their actions alone and their persuading of those that are ignorant or naive can turn something potentially good that has had a good standing on its head and ruin it. Because people that are there that are genuinely interested and in their efforts to help revive, improve, have that order have a better name for itself, can be kept out of that information that's needed and away from it in order to help improve what can potentially put a order in a good place. So, with that being said, I want everybody to think, what are your true intentions? What is your true motive here? What is your reason for wanting to disrupt a balance, a natural order to things? The Force will eventually give messages to those that seek a way to help correct the path that will lead somebody astray. But however, we have to have that humility in order to hear it. And if you don't, and you let your passions override that message thinking you know better, you are in for a very dark, lonely road and will be excluded from the Jedi community. Now, it's no secret, this may be an old topic, but however, there are individuals out there that are still present, that are trying to find their way in. And some have been excommunicated, and they have no other place to go besides their own little pool of misguided, sad individuals. And that they still try to maintain in their own delusion that they have some standing. And truly, I don't feel bad for those individuals because it's been of their own choice and their own decisions and decisions from choices they've made. And misleading people. And I have nothing against the Sith per se, and in a sense, they're not everyone is bad who practices the Sith workings. I know an individual that used it to better themselves, to make no excuses. And I myself have adopted some of those philosophies and some of that thought. But when it goes to hurt innocent people, to corrupt a order, and then ends up getting destroyed by a team effort because the order was going to turn and transform into a cult, that's when you have to put a stop to it, because that harms others, innocent bystanders. They become part of the collateral damage. And, there's a saying in the gray areas that I don't think gets used as an analogy, is that in order to save a city, you have to burn the village. And for those that want to redeem and correct their actions, let those people have a chance. And for those that stay, burn with it. And that village burns if it's to save the city. But if the city needs to be burned and those that want to stay burn with it, then so be it. But warnings have to be given. Diplomacy has to be given and other measures before that action is taken. And if that's ignored, then you have no choice but to go ahead and burn the city. But in that, innocent people are still going to be caught up in it and they're going to be injured. So if you have to save the planet, you burn the city. But if need be, you burn the planet in order to send the message to the rest. Now, that might be a harsh look, but if it's to save a community like the Jedi that is working diligently to try to find a center to define itself, and people take advantage of that instability in what the name stands for, then how dare you? How dare you take advantage of that under your misleadings and guiding for your own personal? And how dare you refer people to those that would do harm? How dare you? The balls on you. Who gave you that right? Who gave you the right and appointed you to mislead? No one did. You allowed yourself to become corrupted, to fall. And there are people that are looking to help correct this. And their endeavors are very noble, very honest, to keep this from happening or at least reduce it. And I praise those people. But in this, we have to look further in. We have to look at, do I want a genuine teaching or do I want a lighter teaching? Either way is good, but you have to understand that when one is at a fragile, gentle state in that teaching, and your ideals outweigh your principles, you're in for a very hard road that's going to eventually, when you come to a bridge, is going to collapse. But then again, it's needed in order to enlighten one to their errors, provided they're willing to learn and come to terms and face that. But this is where ideals and principles vary, they differ. See, when you have ideals, you have an idealistic thought, which in a sense is good, but it doesn't carry you very far. Your principles will. And the principles is what makes an order stand and what you stand for. And when you have that on solid foundation, your fortitude will stand firm. Now, it's sad that there are very few actual working orders that really have stood the test of time. And that's very sad. And there are people that end up going into what people call coffee shops. And I'm not saying this against the Jedi Church. That has some very good potential people in there. And it also has a hub for people who are not. I started from there, and which led me to where I am now. And I applaud that. I applaud those people there that helped me find a way to correct my own life and had a part in it. But however, that also can be a haven for would-be poachers, would-be vultures, would-be vermin. And yeah, I call them that because that's what they are. They prey on the fragile, the naive. This is where, in the ignorance yet knowledge, experience gives us knowledge. Asking and having the strength to ask out of ignorance will do that, will lead one in the right direction. But when the force is speaking and when one is listening, when one sees the signs that are being pointed out and they don't look good, don't feel good, don't sense right, your gut is telling you cut bait and run for your own well-being, or you'll get caught up in that corruption. And for those that unwillingly that happens to you, I feel for you. But there are also people that are good enough to maintain a facade. And then eventually their world crumbles. And in that aspect and in that event, you have asked for it. You have asked for this result of the consequences of your actions. No one's going to feel bad for you because you tried to mislead. And the force has a way of sending those messages out to the right people who will take action. And for those that do take action, I applaud you. Because so much has been said about action and what the Jedi stand for, but nothing is done. And the people that want to do something are fought against. So if you really want unity, What is the greater good? What is the greater cause? Go with that. Don't stay on your ideals of a utopia. It will get you nowheres. The principles get people places. They get things going. They keep things solid. They keep things from burning down.